Maya Chen walked into the Morrison and Associates building every morning at exactly 7:15 a.m. Her heels clicked against the marble floor with perfect rhythm. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight bun, not a single strand out of place. Her navy blue suit was pressed to perfection, and her makeup looked like it had been applied by a professional artist. People in the elevator would glance at her, then look away quickly. She was the kind of woman who made others check their own appearance and find it lacking. At 34, she had climbed higher than anyone expected. Vice President of Strategic Development. The youngest person to ever hold that title at the company, Maya's corner office on the 42nd floor had floor-to-ceiling windows that showed the entire city of Seattle. Her desk was completely clean except for one laptop, one coffee cup, and 3 perfectly arranged files. Everything had its place. Everything was under control. Her assistant Rachel would bring her schedule each morning. Good morning, Miss Chen. You have the client presentation at 9, the budget meeting at 11, and lunch with the Henderson account team at 12:30. Maya would nod once, never looking up from her computer screen. She didn't do small talk. She didn't ask about weekends or family. Business was business. During meetings, Maya sat at the head of the table. She never fidgeted. She never stumbled. Over words, when she spoke, the entire room went quiet. Her voice was steady, confident, final. The numbers don't lie, she would say. We need to increase efficiency by 15%. No exceptions. Nobody argued with Maya Chen. Nobody dared to. But if you looked closely, really closely, you might notice small things. The way her shoulders stayed slightly raised, like she was always ready for an attack. How she positioned her chair so her back was never to the door. The tiny pause before she laughed at office jokes, as if she was calculating whether the laugh was appropriate. Most people didn't notice these things. They were too busy being impressed or intimidated. Maya's reputation was legendary in the company. New employees were warned about her on their first day. Hey, don't waste her time, they were told. Come prepared or don't come at all. Stories spread about people who had tried to bluff their way through presentations with her. None of them worked there anymore. She ate lunch alone in her office, always. Salad from the same restaurant, delivered at the same time. She worked through most holidays. Her phone was always charged, always within reach. She answered emails at midnight and sent them at 5 in the morning. Maya Chen never seemed to sleep, never seemed to rest, never seemed to be anything other than perfectly, coldly professional. Then James Sullivan arrived. It was a Tuesday morning in March when James walked into the conference room for his first department meeting. Maya was already there, of course, reviewing documents with her usual focused intensity. James was different from the usual corporate types. His tie was slightly crooked. His hair looked like he had run his fingers through it. He carried a worn leather bag instead of a pristine briefcase. Sorry I'm almost late, James said, settling into a chair across from Maya. The traffic was crazy, and my GPS decided to take me on a scenic tour of downtown. He smiled, the kind of genuine smile that reached his eyes. Maya glanced up for exactly 2 seconds, then returned to her papers. The meeting starts in 3 minutes. I suggest you prepare your materials. James chuckled softly. Right straight to business. I like that. He pulled out a folder that was noticeably less organized than everyone else's. Some papers were folded at the corners. There were coffee stains on the edges. Maya noticed everything, but she said nothing. The meeting proceeded as usual. Maya presented quarterly results with machine-like precision. Each slide was perfectly formatted. Her laser pointer never wavered. She spoke for exactly 12 minutes, covering every important point without wasting a single word. When it was James's turn to present his creative concepts for the upcoming campaign, something shifted in the room. He stood up, but he didn't use slides. Instead, he talked with his hands, painting pictures with words. He described colors and emotions and stories. His voice had warmth in it, the kind of warmth Maya's voice never had. The goal isn't just to sell a product, James explained. We want to create a feeling. We want people to see themselves in our story. He looked directly at Maya when he said this, and for a moment, she felt something strange. like he was seeing. Past her suit, past her title, past her careful mask. After the meeting, as everyone filed out, James lingered. Maya was packing her papers with mechanical precision when he approached her desk. "That was an impressive presentation," he said. "You really know how to command a room." Maya's response was automatic. "I do my job, nothing more." James tilted, his head slightly, studying her face. "You know," he said quietly, "you're beautiful." The words hit Maya like cold water. People had called her attractive before, usually when they wanted something from her. But James said it differently. Not like he was trying to flatter her or gain an advantage. Like he was simply stating a fact he had observed. Maya's walls went up immediately. "Mr. Sullivan, I prefer to keep our interactions strictly professional." James raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "Of course. I didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. I was just being honest." He paused at the doorway. "But you should know, when I said beautiful, I wasn't just talking about how you look." He left. Maya standing there, her carefully organized world suddenly feeling less stable. What did he mean? What had he seen that made him say such a thing? She had built her entire professional life on being untouchable, unreachable, unreadable. But somehow, James Sullivan had looked at her and seen something she thought she had hidden away years ago. That night, Maya sat in her spotless apartment, eating dinner from a takeout container while reviewing reports. But her mind kept drifting back to those words. "You're beautiful. Not you look beautiful, or you're attractive, just you're beautiful." As if he had seen something deeper than her external appearance. Maya walked to her bathroom mirror and stared at her reflection. She saw what everyone else saw. Perfectly applied makeup, not a hair out of place, professional, polished, untouchable. But for just a moment, she tried to see what James might have seen. Was there something else there? Something she had forgotten existed? She shook her head and returned to her work. James Sullivan was new. He would learn the rules soon enough. He would discover that Maya Chen was not the kind of person who engaged in personal conversations or appreciated unsolicited comments about her appearance. He would adjust his behavior accordingly, just like everyone else did. But as she tried to focus on the quarterly projections, Maya found herself wondering what James had meant. And that wondering felt dangerous, like a crack in a dam she had spent years building. She pushed the thought away and worked until midnight, just like always. What Maya didn't know was that James Sullivan was not like everyone else. And tomorrow would bring another conversation that would chip away at her carefully constructed armor, one word at a time. 3 weeks passed, and Maya found herself working closely with James on the Davidson Industries campaign. It was supposed to be routine. Maya would handle strategy and numbers while James focused on creative concepts. They would meet twice a week, exchange necessary information, and maintain professional distance. That was Maya's plan, but James didn't follow anyone else's rules. During their first official meeting, Maya had prepared a detailed presentation. 43 slides covering market research, target demographics, and projected outcomes. She stood at the front of the small conference room, laser pointer in hand, ready to deliver information with her usual precision. "Before we start," James interrupted gently, "would you like some coffee? I brought some really good stuff from this little place downtown." He held up 2 cups from a local coffee shop Maya had never heard of. Maya paused mid-gesture. Nobody interrupted her presentations. Ever. "I don't drink coffee during meetings. It's distracting." James shrugged and set 1 cup near her anyway.
Nice.
"Just in case you change your mind." The cup had a small heart drawn in foam on top. Maya stared at it for a moment, then forced herself to look away. Her presentation continued as planned, but something felt different. James didn't just nod politely like other colleagues. He asked questions that made her think. "That's fascinating data," he said, studying a chart about consumer behavior. "What do you think motivates these people on a deeper level? What are they really looking for?" Maya blinked. She had numbers about purchasing patterns, demographic breakdowns, spending habits, but deeper motivations, it wasn't her area. "The data speaks for itself," she replied carefully. "Sure, but data tells us what happened." James leaned forward, genuinely interested. Like, when you buy something you really love, what drives that decision? What makes you choose one thing over another? The question caught Maya off guard. When was the last time she had bought something because she loved it? Her apartment was filled with practical items chosen for function, not feeling. Her clothes were selected for their professional appearance. Even her food was ordered based on nutritional value and convenience. I make decisions based on logical evaluation, she said finally. James smiled. That's very practical. But what about when logic isn't enough? What about when you have to trust your instincts? Maya's instincts had been buried so deep she wasn't sure they still existed. I find logic more reliable, she said, then quickly. Move to the next slide. Their meetings continued twice a week. Maya began to notice small changes in her routine, without quite realizing it. She started arriving 5 minutes later than usual, just as James was settling in with his coffee and his slightly messy papers. She found herself looking forward to his questions, even though they often made her uncomfortable. One Thursday afternoon, James brought sandwiches to their meeting. I figured we might get hungry, he explained, unwrapping what looked like a homemade lunch. My neighbor makes incredible bread. Try it. Maya stared at the sandwich. She hadn't eaten homemade food in years. I usually order salad from the restaurant downstairs. This is better than salad, James said, taking a bite. Plus, food always makes meetings more civilized. Against her better judgment, Maya took a small bite. The bread was warm and soft, filled with fresh vegetables and some kind of herb she couldn't identify. It tasted like someone had cared about. Making it, she hadn't realized food could taste like caring. Good, right? James watched her face change slightly as she chewed.
Oh, my neighbor
Grows her own herbs. She says food tastes better when you put love into it. Maya almost choked. Love in food? She ate meals for fuel, nutrition, efficiency. The idea that someone could put emotion into cooking seemed foreign and slightly ridiculous. But the sandwich did taste different from her usual lunch. Warmer somehow. As weeks passed, their conversations began to drift beyond work.
else.
James would ask about her weekend plans, and Maya would give brief, factual responses. I review quarterly reports and prepare for Monday meetings. What about fun stuff? James would press gently. Movies, books, hobbies. Maya's definition of fun had been lost somewhere along her climb to success. I don't have time for leisure activities. James looked genuinely sad when she said this. Sounds lonely. The word hit Maya like a physical blow. Lonely. She lived alone, ate alone, worked alone, made decisions alone. But she had never thought of it as lonely. She had thought of it as independent, professional, focused. But sitting across from James, in that small conference room, Maya suddenly realized she couldn't remember the last time someone had asked her about her dreams or interests or what made her happy. Everything changed on a Tuesday in April. Maya's phone rang during their meeting, displaying her mother's contact information. She almost declined the call automatically, but something in James's curious expression made her hesitate. I need to take this, she said, stepping into the hallway. Maya, your father collapsed at work. Her mother's voice was shaking. We're at Seattle General Hospital. Doctors think it might be his heart. The world tilted sideways. Maya's father, who never got sick, who worked 16-hour days just like she did, who had taught her that showing weakness was dangerous. Her hands started trembling. She returned to the conference room in a daze. James took one look at her face and stood up immediately. What happened? I have to go, Maya said, grabbing her purse with unsteady hands. Family emergency. Let me drive you, James offered, without hesitation. I can manage, Maya replied automatically. But her voice sounded strange even to her own ears. James was already putting on his jacket. I'm sure you can manage everything, but you don't have to manage this alone. For the first time in her professional life, Maya didn't argue. She didn't insist on handling things herself. She simply nodded and followed James to the elevator. In his car, Maya sat rigid in the passenger seat, trying to maintain composure. But her hands wouldn't stop shaking and her breath kept catching in her throat. James drove quietly, occasionally, glancing over with concern but not pushing her to talk at a red light. He reached over and gently covered her trembling hands with one of his own. It's okay to be scared, he said softly. Being scared doesn't make you weak. Maya stared down. At their joined hands, his was warm, slightly rough, completely steady. Hers looked small and fragile underneath his palm. She couldn't remember the last time someone had touched her with such simple kindness. I don't know how to be scared, she whispered, the words slipping out before she could stop them. James squeezed her hand gently. Maybe it's time to learn. As they pulled into the hospital parking lot, Maya realized something terrifying was happening. The walls she had spent years building, the armor that had protected her through every corporate battle, every professional challenge, just every moment when she had to be stronger than everyone expected, it was starting to crack. And James Sullivan, with his gentle questions and homemade sandwiches and steady hands, was showing her that maybe, just maybe, those cracks might let some light in. The hospital waiting room smelled like disinfectant and fear. Maya sat on the edge of a plastic chair, her spine straight as always, but her hands wouldn't stop shaking. She kept checking her phone, not for messages, but just to have something to do with her fingers. The waiting was unbearable. James sat beside her, not saying much, just being present. Every few minutes, he would offer to get her coffee or ask if she needed anything. Maya kept shaking her head no, but she was grateful he stayed. She had never realized how loud silence could be until she was sitting in a hospital corridor, waiting to hear if her father would live or die. Maya Chen, doctor in blue scrubs, appeared, clipboard in hand. Maya shot to her feet so quickly she felt dizzy. Yes, that's me. How is he? Your father is stable. He had a mild heart attack, but we caught it early. He's going to be fine, but he needs rest and some lifestyle changes. The doctor's voice was calm, professional. The same tone Maya used in business meetings. Relief flooded through her body like warm water. Her knees felt weak, and for a moment she thought she might fall down. James stood up beside her, close enough to catch her if needed. Can I see him? Maya asked. He's resting now, but you can visit for a few minutes. Room 314. Maya walked down the hospital hallway on unsteady legs. Everything felt surreal, like she was watching someone else's life through a foggy window. James walked beside her, matching her pace, ready to help if she needed it. Her father looked small in the hospital bed. David Chen, who had always seemed larger than life, was connected to machines with wires and tubes. His face was pale, and his breathing was shallow but steady. Maya had never seen him look so fragile. She pulled a chair close to his bed and sat down. Her father's eyes opened slowly when he heard movement. Maya, he said weakly, you came. Of course I came, Dad. Maya reached out and took his hand. It felt cold and thin, nothing like the strong hands she remembered from childhood. Should be at work, he said, even though he was lying in a hospital bed. Important meetings. Maya almost laughed, but it came out as a sob instead. Here was her father having just survived a heart attack, and he was worried about her missing work. She realized they were exactly alike. Both of them had forgotten how to put anything before their jobs. Work can wait, Maya said, and the words felt strange in her mouth. She had never said anything like that before. They sat quietly for a while. Maya watched the monitors beep and flash numbers she didn't understand. Her father dozed on and off. And every time he closed his eyes, Maya felt panic rise in her chest. What if he stopped breathing? What if the machines started making different sounds? I was proud of you, you know, her father said suddenly, his voice clearer than before. When you got the promotion, when you became vice president, I told everyone at work about my daughter, the executive. Maya felt tears building behind her eyes. I know, Dad, but I worry about you, he continued. You work too much, just like me. Look where it got me. He gestured weakly at the hospital room. Maya couldn't hold back the tears anymore. They started slowly, then came faster. I don't know how to do anything else, she whispered. I don't know how to be anything else. Her father squeezed her hand. With what little strength he had. You're more than your job, Maya. You always were. I just forgot to tell you that. The tears came harder now. Maya tried to wipe them away, but they kept coming. She was crying in a public place, letting someone see her completely broken down. Everything she had been taught about staying strong, and professional was falling apart. James appeared in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. He took one look at Maya's tear-stained face and quietly set the cups down on a small table. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled out a small packet of tissues from his pocket and handed them to her without saying a word. Maya took the tissues gratefully. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't usually... Don't apologize," James said gently. "There's nothing wrong with caring about someone you love. Maya realized she hadn't said those words to her father in years. She hadn't said them to anyone. Love was messy and complicated and made you vulnerable. But sitting there in that sterile room, watching her father breathe, Maya understood that love was also the only thing that really mattered. That evening, Maya found herself in the hospital bathroom, staring at her reflection in the fluorescent light. Her makeup was smeared from crying. Her hair had come loose from its perfect bun. Her clothes were wrinkled from sitting in uncomfortable chairs all day. She looked human. She looked real. For the first time in years, Maya really looked at herself, not at her professional appearance or her corporate image, but at the person underneath. She saw tired eyes that had forgotten how to dream. She saw a face that had forgotten how to smile genuinely. She saw someone who had become so focused on appearing strong that she had forgotten what real strength looked like. She thought about her father's words. "You're more than your job." When was the last time she had done something just because she enjoyed it? When was the last time she had talked to someone about something other than work? When was the last time she had let herself be vulnerable, really vulnerable, with another person? Maya washed her face with cold water and tried to fix her hair. But it was hopeless. She looked like someone who had been through an emotional storm, and maybe that was okay. Maybe looking perfect all the time was exhausting for a reason. When she came out of the bathroom, James was waiting in the hallway. He looked at her face, red from crying and raw from emotion, and said something that changed everything. "You look beautiful," he said softly. Maya almost protested. Almost pointed out that she was a mess, that her makeup was gone and her hair was everywhere. But something in his voice stopped her. He wasn't talking about her appearance. He was talking about something deeper. "I look terrible," Maya said, but without her usual sharp edge. "No," James said, stepping closer. "You look real. You look like someone who loves her father and isn't afraid to show it. You look like someone who has feelings and isn't ashamed of them." He paused. "You look like the person I've been hoping to meet." Maya felt something crack inside her chest, not breaking but opening. Like a door she had kept locked for years, was finally creaking open. She was scared of what might come out, but she was also curious. "I don't know how to be that person," she admitted. James smiled. "Maybe you don't have to know. You just have to be willing to try." Standing in that hospital hallway, Maya realized that her armor wasn't protecting her anymore. It was just making her lonely. And for the first time in her adult life, she wondered what might happen if she let someone see who she really was underneath all the professional polish. It was terrifying. But it was also the most alive she had felt in years. The week after her father's heart attack, Maya tried to return to normal. She arrived at work at 7:15 a.m., as usual, wearing her perfectly pressed suit and carrying her organized files. But something felt different. The armor that had once felt natural now felt heavy, like wearing clothes that no longer fit properly. During her first meeting back, Maya found herself doing something strange. When a junior colleague made a small mistake in his presentation, instead of her usual sharp correction, she paused. "Let's take a look at this together," she heard herself saying. "Maybe we can find a better approach." The room went quiet. People glanced at each other with confused expressions. Maya Chen didn't collaborate. She didn't say let's or together. She gave orders, made corrections, and moved on. But here she was, actually helping someone instead of just pointing out their errors. Later that day, James knocked on her office door. "How are you holding up?" he asked, settling into the chair across from her desk. "I'm fine," Maya replied automatically, then stopped. Was she fine? Her father was recovering well, but she felt unsettled, like someone had rearranged the furniture. In her mind, while she wasn't looking, James studied her face. You know, it's okay not to be fine. What you went through was scary. Maya's usual response would have been to shut down the conversation, to redirect it back to work. Instead, she found herself saying, I keep thinking about what my father said. About being more than my job? What do you think he meant? Maya stared out her office window at the Seattle skyline. I honestly don't know. I've been this person for so long. I'm not sure who I am underneath the suits and meetings. James leaned forward. What did you want to be when you were younger, before all this? He gestured around her pristine office. The question hit Maya like a surprise. When was the last time anyone had asked her about her childhood dreams? To paint, she said quietly, the words feeling rusty from disuse. Watercolors, mostly. I loved how the colors would blend together, creating something new. What happened to that? Maya's throat tightened. My parents needed me to be practical. Art doesn't pay bills or provide security, so I studied business instead. But you still remember how it felt to paint. Maya closed her eyes for a moment. She could almost smell the watercolors, feel the soft brush in her fingers, see the way blue and yellow would dance together to create perfect green. Yes, she whispered. Maybe it's not too late, James said gently. That weekend, Maya did something she hadn't done in 15 years. She walked into an art supply store. The smell of paper and paint hit her immediately, bringing back memories she thought she had buried. Her hands trembled as she picked up brushes, testing their weight and softness. Can I help you? Asked a young employee with paint-stained fingers. I used to paint, Maya said hesitantly. A long time ago. I want to try again, but I don't remember. What I need. The employee's face lit up. That's wonderful. Starting again is like riding a bicycle. Your hands remember, even when your mind forgets. Maya bought a basic watercolor set, some brushes, and a pad of paper. Walking home with the supplies felt like carrying a secret. What would her colleagues think if they knew Maya Chen, the ice-cold executive, was planning to paint pictures? First attempt was terrible. The colors ran together in muddy streaks. Her hand felt clumsy and uncertain. Maya stared at the mess on her paper and felt frustrated tears building up. Maybe she had been fooling herself. Maybe some dreams were meant to stay buried, but something made her try again and again. Each painting was slightly better than the last. Her hands began to remember old movements. The brush felt more natural. The colors started obeying her intentions instead of fighting against them. James began stopping by her apartment on weekend evenings, bringing takeout dinner and sitting quietly while she painted. He never criticized her work or offered advice. He just watched her face change as she lost herself in the colors and movement. You look different when you paint, he observed one evening, watching her work on a simple landscape. Different how? Peaceful. Like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Maya paused, brush halfway to the paper. She realized he was right when she painted, the constant voice in her head that analyzed and calculated and worried finally went quiet. For those few hours, she wasn't Maya Chen the executive. She was just Maya, someone who loved the way paint moved across wet paper. But change wasn't easy. During stressful weeks at work, Maya would revert to her old patterns, would snap at colleagues, demand perfection, and lock herself in her office. The old armor would slide back into place like it had never been removed. One particularly difficult day. After a client meeting had gone badly, Maya found herself taking her frustration out on her assistant. These numbers are completely wrong, she said coldly, dropping a report on Rachel's desk. I need them corrected immediately. Rachel looked hurt. I'm sorry, Miss Chen. I'll fix them right away. I started to walk away, then stopped. She turned back and really looked at Rachel's face. The young woman was trying hard not to cry. Maya realized the numbers weren't actually wrong. They just weren't formatted exactly the way Maya preferred. Rachel, Maya said softly, I'm sorry. The numbers are fine. I'm having a difficult day, and I took it out on you. That wasn't fair. Rachel's eyes widened in surprise. Oh, thank you for saying that. It was a small moment, but it felt huge to Maya. Apologizing didn't make her weak or unprofessional. It made her human. These small changes began to ripple through her life, Maya started leaving her office door open more often. She asked colleagues about their weekends. She admitted when she didn't know something instead of pretending. She had all the answers. Not everyone appreciated the changes. Some people seemed uncomfortable with this softer version of Maya Chen. A few colleagues made comments about her losing her edge or going soft. But Maya was surprised to discover she cared less about their opinions than she expected. One evening, she painted a sunset that reminded her of childhood summers. Maya spoke the words that had been building inside her for weeks. "You call me?" "Beautiful," she said to James, who was reading nearby. "But you haven't seen what I am beneath the armor. I'm not sure I'm ready for you to see it all." James set down his book and looked at her seriously. "What do you think I'll find?" Maya's hand shook slightly as she added a touch of purple to the sky. "Someone who's afraid. Someone who's been pretending to be strong for so long she forgot what real strength looks like. Someone who doesn't know if she's brave enough to be loved for who she really is." James was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Maya, I've been waiting for you to trust me with who you really are. Not because I need it, but because you deserve to be known. Really known." Maya set down her brush and looked at him through tears she didn't try to hide. For the first time in her adult life, she was ready to find out what might happen if she stopped hiding behind her armor and let someone see the real her. It was the most terrifying and hopeful feeling she had ever experienced. James's response to Maya's confession surprised her completely. He didn't try to reassure her or tell her she was wrong to be afraid. Instead, he simply said, "I've been waiting for you to trust me with who you really are. Not because I need it, but because you deserve to be known." Those words stayed with Maya for days. She deserved to be known. The idea felt foreign, almost revolutionary. For years, she had believed that being known meant being vulnerable, and being vulnerable meant being weak. But what if she had it backwards? What if hiding was the weakness, and showing herself was actually brave? Maya made a decision that would have terrified her old self. She decided to organize a small art show featuring her watercolor paintings. Not a big professional exhibition, just a quiet gathering in the community center near her apartment. She would invite a few colleagues, some neighbors, her parents, and James. The idea came to her while she was painting one evening. She had been working on a piece that showed a woman removing pieces of armor, each piece revealing something softer and more colorful underneath. As she painted, Maya realized this was her story. She was that woman, and maybe it was time to show people what she had discovered beneath her own armor. Planning the show was harder than any corporate presentation she had ever prepared. At work, she knew exactly what was expected. She had data, strategies, clear objectives. But this was different. This was personal. This was putting her heart on display and hoping people wouldn't walk away. Maya's mother called the week before. "The show? I don't understand," she said in her careful English. "Why are you showing paintings? You have important job. Why waste time on art?" Maya took a deep breath. "Because it makes me happy, Mom. Because it's part of who I am." There was silence on the other end of the line. Finally, her mother said, "Your father and I will come. We want to understand." The night of the show, Maya arrived at the community center 2 hours early. She hung her paintings carefully, adjusting each one multiple times. There were 12 pieces in total, ranging from her terrible first attempts to her recent work that actually looked like what she had intended to paint. Each painting told part of her story. There was the muddy mess from her first day back to art, a painting of hospital walls that she had done while visiting her father, self-portrait where her reflection showed both her business suit and paint-stained fingers. And finally, the woman removing armor, revealing gardens and starlight underneath. People began arriving at 7 o'clock. Maya's colleagues looked confused, glancing around the small space as if they had taken a wrong turn. Her assistant, Rachel, came with her boyfriend, both of them studying the paintings with genuine interest. "Miss Chen," Rachel said quietly, "I had no idea you painted. These are beautiful." Maya felt her cheeks warm. "Thank you. I'm still learning." Her parents arrived precisely on time, looking formal and slightly uncomfortable. Maya's father still Moving slowly from his recovery, studied each painting carefully. He stopped in front of the self-portrait for a long time. "This is you?" he asked. "Yes," Maya said nervously. "It's how I see myself now, two parts of the same person." Her father nodded slowly. "It's good. It's honest." Coming from her father, who valued honesty above almost everything else, this was high praise. James arrived last, carrying flowers and wearing the kind of smile that made Maya's heart skip. He walked through the small exhibition slowly, stopping at each piece. When he reached the woman removing armor, he stood there for several minutes. "This one," he said finally, "is incredible." "It's not very good technically," Maya said, falling back into old habits of self-criticism. "That's not what makes art good," James replied. "What makes it good is that it's true, and this is the truest thing I've ever seen." As the evening continued, Maya found herself talking to people about her paintings in ways she never talked about her work presentations. She told stories about what inspired each piece, shared the mistakes she had made, laughed about the times. Paint had ended up everywhere except on the paper. Her colleague from the budget department, a quiet man named Kevin, spent a long time looking at the hospital painting. "My wife was in the hospital last year," he said quietly. "This captures exactly how those places feel. It's like they're full of fear and hope at the same time." Maya realized this was the first personal conversation she had ever had with Kevin. Despite working with him for 3 years, not everyone understood or appreciated what Maya was doing. A few colleagues left early, clearly uncomfortable with seeing their intimidating vice president in such a personal light. I heard one of them whisper to another, "I don't get it. Why is she doing this?" But for the first time in her life, Maya didn't need everyone to understand. She had spent years trying to be perfect for other people, trying to meet expectations that kept shifting and growing. Tonight she was just being herself, and that felt like enough. At the end of the evening, as Maya was taking down her paintings, James helped her wrap each one carefully. "How do you feel?" he asked. Maya considered the question seriously. "Scared," she said finally, "but also free. It's like I've been holding my breath for years and finally remembered how to exhale." James smiled. "You know what I realized tonight? What you were always beautiful, but now you're also brave." Maya looked around. The empty community center at the bare walls where her paintings had hung just minutes before. She thought about Monday morning when she would return to her office and her meetings and her responsibilities. Some things would be the same. She would still be good at her job, still be professional, still be strong when strength was needed. But something fundamental had changed. The armor was still there, but now she knew it was a choice, not a prison. She could put it on when she needed protection and take it off when she wanted connection. She could be Maya Chen the executive, and Maya the artist, and Maya the daughter, and Maya the woman who was learning to let herself be loved. Standing in that quiet room, surrounded by the echoes of genuine conversation and honest art, Maya understood something that would have seemed impossible just months before. She didn't have to choose between being strong and being real. She could be both. The woman beneath the armor wasn't weak or broken or shameful. She was human, which was the bravest thing anyone could be in a world that often rewarded pretending. Otherwise, as James drove her home, Maya looked out at the Seattle night and smiled. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new opportunities to choose between hiding and showing up authentically. But tonight, she had taken off her armor in front of people who mattered, and the world hadn't ended. Instead, it had opened up in ways she was just beginning to understand.